How many of you guys think music is an influence to our lives? Music is probably the biggest influence we have as human beings. Music is what my life sounds like. Music is what your life sounds like. It's kind of blurry, huh? Music is what our life sounds like. Now, the title of my message today is My Life, a Song for You. But it's not for you. It's my life, a song for Jesus. Just as well as your life, a song for Jesus. Because if my life is a song for Jesus, it will definitely be a song for you. Definitely. Now, every life in here, every single one of us in here today, and every single person in the church today that is in service at this moment is a song. There's no need for you to carry any lyrics. There's no need for you to carry a note. You are a song. The simple fact that we relate to one another and I spend time with you and you spend time with me, we will find out what kind of songs we are. And the way we think, the way we act, the way we behave, we will say, I like that song. Or we will say, I hate that song. And we're going to be talking about you and me. But it's the tune we carry without saying anything. That's why we have to be careful that my life is a song for Jesus. Because if my life is a song for Jesus, it's going to please you. Now, it's not going to please everybody because we all don't have the same eye view of who Jesus is. But in the end, it will please everybody if my life is a song for Jesus. God has redeemed us, and He has redeemed us for one reason. And that is to finish the task that He begun 2,000 years ago. He came and died for you, and died for me, in redemption of the debt that we cannot pay. Therefore, we must serve Him. And we must serve Him happy, with a smile on our faces. Not saying, man, I have to go disciple. Golly, it's time for cell group again? Listen to the song. When we are at church singing praises to God, what's your attitude like? I was here and I was watching some of you, and it's like, man, how did Cowboys end up last night? What about that soap opera that we were watching the other day? Hey, whatever you're thinking and whatever's on your mind, that's the song you're singing. That's the song you're representing. Unfortunately, there's a bunch of Christians we are Christians of lips only. We're not Christians at heart. Because we say we're Christians, but the tune and the songs and the lyric we're carrying is worldly. It doesn't belong in the church. It doesn't praise Jesus. It does not lift Him up. It doesn't say, God is my Savior. The song we carry doesn't say, God is my refuge. I always tell my kids, you have no right to have a bad day. Christians have no right to have a bad day. It doesn't matter how bad the situation is. You have no right. You know why? Because all you have to do is remember what Jesus did for you. And that ought to be more than enough to lighten up your day. To lift you up, to make you run, to flip over and do all kinds of things. Why? Because Jesus is alive and He's alive in you. And He has redeemed you for that same reason. So that you can motivate others to serve Him. And when we have that type of attitude, it doesn't work. We are not motivating to serve. Therefore, I got to change my lyrics, my notes, and everything that my life is singing and saying. Because my life has to please Jesus in the notes and everything that I do. Because my life is a song for him. It's a song for you. Now, how many of you like heroes? You don't like heroes, huh? Hey, it's not an American thing. It's a world thing. We all love heroes. All of our songs that we listen to are based on a hero, or the majority of them are based on a hero. We have in cartoons, it's all based on a hero. Captain America, Super Friends, Superman, Batman, and all these characters, and they have a song. We know it's Batman, and we're going to go fight and splash, pow, kapow. It's a hero thing. But you know, us in America are very hero-driven. One of my heroes is Abraham Lincoln. When Abraham Lincoln comes to mind, it's the Battle Hymn of the Republic. My God, we are marching on. We are going to war. And you know what? We're not going to lose. Because God is on my side. And when I hear the Battle Hymn of the Republic, Abraham Lincoln comes to my mind. All the times that he tried and tried and tried and failed, and he didn't give up. He went on and on and on until he got to where he needed to be. And you know what? He died on the line for what he thought was right. It's amazing when you read his history, how many times he failed and didn't give up. He's a hero. We are hero-driven. All of our songs are based on heroes. And that's what I want to talk about today, because you are a hero. And as a hero, the song that you are making needs to please God. I was remembering George Bush when he went into office back in, 2000? And they asked him, who's your hero? And I think this is what got him into office. He said, Jesus, because of what he did. That's our hero. That ought to be more than enough to motivate us to evangelize the whole world, to go into the unknown and start fires, start fights. Not with one another, but with Satan. He's the one we got to beat. God is on my side. So we read 2 Samuel 23, 13 through 17. And it says this. Then 3 of the 30 chief men went down at the harvest time and came to David at the cave of Adullam. And the troop of the Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold. And the garrison of the Philistines was in Bethlehem. And David said with longing, oh, that someone would give me a drink of water from the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate. So the 3 mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he would not drink it, but poured it out to the Lord and said, far be it from me, O Lord, that I should do this. Is this not the blood of the men who went in jeopardy of their lives? Therefore, he wouldn't drink it. These things were done by the 3 mighty men. Now here, we're talking about some heroes. 3 mighty men that went and did something for their master. And the first thing that I want us to look at is that in order for my life to be a motivating song, to carry the notes and motivate others to serve Jesus, my life has to be a charismatic life. Now we have to be careful with this, because us as human beings, we have ruined what charismatic means. We have given it a new meaning. We have given it a new definition. And we come to think, when we hear the word charismatic, oh, if I don't speak in tongues and do flips and all this other things, I'm not charismatic. In order for you to be charismatic, you got to do all those things. That's not what charismatic means. We all need to be charismatic about who Jesus and God is. But it's not making flips and doing all kinds of things that other people can't do or won't do. Charismatic is compelling attractiveness. When you see me behaving for God, it should be attracting to you and say, I want to be like that. That's what I want to be doing. That's being charismatic. Charismatic is calling attention to the behavior that I have for my master. Just like it does for this mighty man of David. Man, it wasn't a need that David had. It was a desire. He's in the stronghold. Saul and his children had been killed by the Philistines, and they were encamping in Bethlehem. The Philistines, the enemy. And David is going, man, I wish I had a glass of water of the well in the town where I grew up. I would have said, are you crazy? You want me to, what? All of us would have said that. But this mighty men didn't do that. They didn't hesitate to fulfill the needs, not only the needs, but the desires of his master. They were charismatic. Now, to be charismatic, we must have some knowledge. We must know what we're doing. You can't just be charismatic and act and all these things. You have to know. You have to have some kind of knowledge. We have to have some kind of knowledge. These men who knew who David was. They knew that David was chosen by God to be the king of Israel. They knew that David had a high position, not only in Israel, but for God. That he was a child of God, chosen by him. These mighty men knew who they were. They didn't esteem themselves higher than what they thought they ought to be. They knew their position. They knew they needed to follow David because he was their boss, their master. He gives the orders and I obey. They knew their position and they knew David. And according to that knowledge, they were charismatic in the way they drove their lives. And most important of all, they knew who God was. They knew that Israel is the child of God, the chosen ones. They knew that God is the creator and the maker of all things. That's why these mighty men are the heroes that we... And you know what? You don't read a whole lot about these three mighty men. These three mighty men are, they got weird names. It's Adino, Eleazar, and Shammah. And you will only find them in Samuel and in First Chronicles. But these mighty men had knowledge of who David was, who they were, and who God is. These mighty men trusted. You know, us as human beings, we were just, Brother Hugh talking about his phone, we are so dependent on technology. We are so dependent on the stuff around us, the stuff we have accumulated that will do the work for us. That's what we trust. Whenever we ask one another to do something for us, there's certain doubt that it won't happen. But when I go to my computer, it will work. Because we are so dependent on that. We are so dependent on our money, our technology, the material world around us, that's what we trust. These mighty men, they trusted David as well as their own selves. 2 Samuel 23:2 says this, the Spirit of the Lord spoke by me. And this is David speaking. The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me, and these mighty men trusted in that. Because the song that David was singing was a song that pleased Jesus. That same song that we sing today, if it's the same song that David sang in his life, it's going to please you. And you're going to trust in me because I'm singing to Jesus in my daily living. The Spirit of the Lord spoke by me, and His word was on my tongue. These men trusted God by David's instruction. David was the middleman. He was the one that instructed them in following God. And they were His mighty men. These men had integrity. They did what they said they were going to do. When you read this in the Spanish Bible, it doesn't give you the picture that these men broke through the line. It's real clear in the English Bible that these men broke through the line, which means that they went through the front door. In Spanish, it kind of leads you to think that they hid and they went around and tried not to be seen so they could get the water. But the English Bible is real clear. They went through the front door. They knew that the Philistines were at the door, and they went in jeopardy of their lives and got the water. They were confident in themselves. They trusted in themselves. They trusted in the instruction that David had given them with God's instruction. They were mighty. They knew. They had integrity. They had conduct. A certain level of conduct that gave them the position they had. That gave them the trust they had. In other words, they were humble. Because if they wouldn't have the right conduct, you know how us humans are. It doesn't take much for me to think that I'm better than you. It doesn't take much for you to think that you're better than me. It doesn't take much at all. These mighty men, they could have gone to one another and said, hey, we're pretty good warriors. Let's beat David up and take over. He's got the glory. We beat him down and we get rid of him and we get the glory. Guess what's happened in Mexico with the cartels and the gangs? The cartels and the gangs have decided that they can make more money if they get rid of the government. They kill the ones in office that have power and get one that they can manipulate. And guess what? They're making more money. They have more power and they can manipulate everything. These mighty men could have done that too. When you read up on Adino, in one battle, himself, he killed 800 men. Him. Eleazar defended a land for the Israel when they were running away from the Philistines, and he stood in the middle of it and said, you ain't going to take it. I'm going to take you down right now. Shammah says that, I might have this backwards, but his sword got stuck to his hand because he was fighting, defending what God had given them. Heroes. They were singing a song for Jesus based on the knowledge they acquired from their master. And you know, they were honest. They had honesty in their hearts. As children of God, the song that is heard from us should be more pleasant to day after day. It should be more pleasing. It should be more pretty, if you can understand that. It should sound better and better and better each day that goes by. Increasing in knowledge, gaining trust with one another, showing integrity and good conduct, which leaves no room for the enemy to come and point the finger and say, you've done this and you've done that. Our song must be sung just like Titus 2:7-8. That our lives are lived in such a way that the enemy has nothing to accuse us of. Therefore, he goes away. He's beat. The second thing I want us to look at here is that in order for my life to be a motivating song, it must be a life of order. That's something that we're lacking a lot today, nowadays. And we mentioned last week how our country is going down, and it seems like it's not going to stop because there's no order. Verse 16 says, so the three mighty men broke through the camp of the Philistines, drew water from the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David. Nevertheless, he wouldn't drink it, but poured it out to the Lord. Now imagine these three guys. They're saying, look, our master wants a glass of water from the well that's behind that enemy line. What do you say? Should we go get him a glass of water? Sure, let's go and get a glass of water. I'll do this, you do that, and I'll do this other. They each have their own thoughts. You think they would have gotten a glass of water? They would have gotten nothing. They wouldn't have gotten anything because they didn't have order. They weren't working together. They had order. They knew what they had to do, and they knew what one another could do. So they were ordered and went to battle and got what their master wanted. They had order. David had trained them. In the order we must have decision. Every day that we get up and off of bed, we got decisions to make. Decisions must be made. And if we have no order in our lives, well, guess what? The song's not going to sound pretty. It's not going to encourage anyone. It's not going to motivate anyone to any service because there's no order. Right now that we were leading in worship, we sang one song in E. But if I would have decided not to follow the order and go to D, guess what it would have sounded like? If each one of us up here wouldn't have followed the order and done whatever we wanted, it wouldn't be a pretty song. It definitely wouldn't please us. Well, definitely wouldn't please God. Because there's no order. There's got to be order in order for our song to sound pleasing. These mighty men were available to fulfill not only David's orders, but his desires. And it didn't matter what they had to go through. They knew what they had to do. They've been trained. Now let me ask you, have you been trained? Do you know what you have to do? You are enter in the mission field, it says right in that door. Do you know what you have to do? Do you know that your job is to evangelize and bring visitors to church so that they can hear the word? And you know what? You don't have to bring them to church. Because when you are in the mission field, It's your job to give them the word so that they can know. So that they can hear it. They don't have to be saved here in church or here in the building. They need to be saved out there because you are preaching to them. You are giving them the good news. You are going into the battlefield, into the enemy lines, breaking through the enemy lines with the word of God. That when you bring them here, they're saved and ready to be discipled. Why? Because you are the hero that you need to be. I am the hero that I need to be. And if it's not so, well, I need to change the notes and the lyrics in my song so that it can be pleasing to God and doing what it needs to be doing. These guys had to make a decision every day they got up. Every day they fought war. But you know, these guys weren't mighty all their lives. They weren't heroes all their lives. They weren't born heroes. We can see that in 1 Samuel 22, 1 and 2. It says, David therefore departed from there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. So when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented, gathered to him. So he became captain over them. And there were about 400 men with him. Everybody that had problems. Everybody that couldn't stand on their own. When they heard David had a problem, they came to him. Does that not sound like us? Brother Mark asked a minute ago, have y'all prayed for finances? Who hasn't? No one raised their hand. Does this not sound like us? Everybody that had problems came to David. And you know who we're reading about? You know who we're listening to about? Heroes. Heroes that made a decision in the past when they were nobody. But they became someone when they came under the instruction of David because he had the instruction from God. And they are someone now, and they are in the book of God. They are the heroes that keeps on inspiring us to do the job that we need to do. To raise up Jesus on high. To lift him up and become a pretty song for him. That's us. Look, in Missional, who is our leader? Will the leader of Missional please stand? Well, here in the congregation. Is Mark our leader? No? Yes? Yes, please. In this group, Mark is our David. Now, where are the leaders of Missional? Hugh, please stand. Nathan, Kwabena. Is that the leaders of Missional? Those are the mighty men of David. Which have to be ready to break through the lines. Y'all can have a seat, thank you. Have to be ready to break through the lines because you've been instructed under your leader with the leadership of God. There's a decision to be made. Order has to be taken. And in this order, decisions have to be made based on our knowledge. And we can't stop being charismatic. We have to be. Because the song that we have to play. Because the song, the notes that we have to carry have to please God. And that song, without saying anything, without thinking anything, is going to bring souls to Jesus. Because it's a pretty song. It's pleasing God. In the order that we have to be positive. We can't afford to be negative. We have to be optimists. We can't be pessimists. It doesn't work. Being pessimist just gives us a bad attitude. We have to be optimists and say, okay, we got 40 people today, but next week we're going to get 50. Instead of saying, man, we only got 40 people in here today. Our song has to sound pretty each day. In our order, we have to focus on the results. These mighty men didn't break through the lines thinking, we might get a glass of water. These men broke through the Philistine lines knowing they were going to get a glass of water. Therefore, when we step into the mission field, we can't be thinking we might get a soul. We might get a disciple. Our mind has to be made up. I will get a disciple. I have to focus on the results. I will. Now, my prayer when we go to Livingston is that by December we have 2 families. It's not easy. Like Chester Cheetah says, it's not easy being cheesy. But we got to go. And my prayer is that by December we have 2 families that we're discipling and carrying along. But if the song is not pretty, I will not have them. We will not have them. The song has to lift up Jesus. The song we sing, the song we play, the song my life shows has to lift up Jesus in order for those 2 families to be there by December. And the same is for all child of God. We have to focus on the results. The third thing I want us to look at in there is that in order for my life to be a motivating song, it must be a life of obedience. We got charismatic, order, and obedience. And in obedience, we have to focus on our vision. We find in Proverbs that us as children of God, if we don't have a vision, we will perish. We will cease to exist. Why? Because there is no vision to keep us focused on the work that we need to be doing. We must have a vision. If the vision for Missional is not in your heart, you need to come to the altar and ask God to put it in your heart, to transfer it from your mind to your heart, which is you. So that when you're acting and singing and doing all kinds of things, it's based on the vision that you have to fulfill the job that God has given you to do. It's got to be a vision. Without a vision, we will perish. Now, we have to be real careful. Because us as human beings, we grab the vision and nobody can do it like I can. So step aside. We have to learn to delegate. We have to learn to give others a chance. To teach others and bring them under our wing and show them how to work so that they can be of help to me as well as I can be of help to them. But we have to be a church of vision. Jesus was a man of vision, is a man of vision. His vision is to save you. His vision is to save me. His vision is to save our neighbors that haven't been saved. His vision is to conquer Atlanta for his honor and glory. And you know how that's going to get done? You and me. It won't happen any other way. The Bible tells us that if we stop talking, who will talk? The rocks. Now, that would be a shame. That if my neighbor will be saved because of the words that a rock said, me being right there all alone, that'd be embarrassing. So we have a job to do. And my life ought to motivate my neighbor just by seeing me cut the grass and say, I want to cut the grass like he does. So he takes me over to his yard and cut his grass. I'm kidding. But I want to close with this. My life is a song for Jesus. And it has to be charismatic. It's got to have order. And it has to have obedience. There's a missionary that went to Africa. He was called by God, and the place where he was given was a village in Africa. And you know, being from the United States and being from America, in order to minister to the people in other countries, we have to go there and learn their customs, learn their traditions, learn their culture, so that we can minister to them in their land, not with our customs and traditions and all that stuff. So this missionary went there to this village in Africa and got acquainted with the people there, and learning the traditions and all the customs and all of those things. He learned that people over there don't get married like we do here. Right here, I like the girl and I go take my daddy, go talk to her daddy, and we get acquainted. My daddy asks for her hand, although, you know, probably doesn't happen much nowadays. But that's the tradition that we know. Well, in that village in Africa, the daddy, the man of the house, decided when the young lady was ready for marriage. He's the one that decided, based on observing her and checking her out and making sure that she was doing what a wife should be doing. Whenever he saw that his little girl was ready for marriage, he would announce it to the whole village. And when the people heard that so-and-so was ready for marriage, they would know who they were, what the service that she provided, and how good of a wife, and how she cooked, and all of that stuff. So how they got the wife was cows. They would say, okay, well, that young lady over there, I think she's worth 3 cows. So they would take these 3 cows and tie them to the fence. And then if the daddy came out and saw that she was worth 3 cows, he would give her away to this man. Now, the record was 6 cows. If you had a 6-cow wife, you were on the top of the world. Because you had the best wife in that village. There was no other wife that compared to that wife. You were the king, and she was your queen. Now, this man being in Africa and doing the evangelistic thing, he got a couple of disciples. And one of his disciples, he goes, I have a journey. My goal is to get an 8-cow wife. I'm a son of God. I'm a child of God. And a child of God deserves the best. Nah, this 6-cow wife, it's not for me. I need an 8-cow wife. And I must start my journey. So he did. He started looking here and there, and nothing. Nothing was announced, and whatever was announced, it wasn't an 8-cow wife. So the missionary had to come back to the States. And he came over for a couple of months. While he was here in the United States, he gets a call from his disciple. And he goes, Pastor, I got myself an 8-cow wife. I'm getting married. The pastor was shocked because the record was 6-cow wife. So he was anxious to find out how he had gotten an 8-cow wife. So when it's time to go back to Africa, he goes to his disciple's house, and he knocks on the door, and the prettiest face comes out and greets him and treats him like a king, and serves him and brings him coffee, tea, and everything. And he was shocked. He said, man, this is an 8-cow wife. So they're sitting there talking, and his wife is awesome. There's none like her. Serving him like a king and everything. And he goes, man, how did you do it? How did you get an 8-cow wife? She is pretty, she's got a good figure, and she serves you like no other. He goes, well, I didn't wait for the daddy to announce it. I looked for the girl that I like. I took my 8 cows and tied them to the fence and went to the daddy and said, this is for your daughter. I want to marry your daughter. Now keep in mind, the record was 6 cows. And that's the tradition. This girl, when she saw that she was worth 8 cows, she was motivated to serve. She was motivated to marry his king. She was motivated to marry his prince, to serve him like no other. She was worth 8 cows, the best in the village. How much are you worth? God, at some point, Jehovah God, he said, he saw how lost we were, that we didn't know right from left. And he said, I am going to send him the best. I'm not going to send an archangel. I'm not going to send Michael. I'm not going to send any one of my creation. I'm going to send my son. I'm going to send my son and give it to them so that they can serve me. Now, are you worth Jesus? Because that ought to be enough to motivate you to jump, flip, be all the charismatic you want, and serve him like the king that he is. He gave you the best. Just like in that village, he went and looked and gave the best. God came and looked and gave the best for you and for me. He sang a song that motivates us to serve him. And in the same way, we must sing a song that motivates you. Or at this time, I need to be singing a song that motivates you to serve God. What note are you carrying? Does Jesus motivate you? Because he motivates me. I wish I could preach to you the same in English that I do in Spanish. I'd probably be screaming more. Because Jesus is motivating. Very motivating. And we need no other. He is all that we need.